Hello everybody, Sam Tom here. Today I'm going to be ranking the villains of Batman the Animated Series. Couple disclaimers before I get started. Obviously, I'm not great at doing these kinds of videos. I don't have a screen recorder software, so I'm just filming my TV. Also, I don't know how to use a tier list maker. I tried Googling it thinking that it would be easy. Couldn't figure it out, so I'm doing this in Google Sheets because that's a program that I know. So, sorry, this is going to be a little clunkier than the real nice professional ones. Also, I am only including Batman the Animated Series villains in this, not the new Batman Adventures. Adventures? Did I say that word wrong? So there are some villains from that show that are not in this. The only exception to that is the Phantasm. I did include her because I wanted to. So we have Batman the Animated Series villains. Final disclaimer, I think, is that this is all, my opinion. For some of these, my ranking is going to be based on how I think they are as a villain. But for some of them, it's going to be kind of like how memorable they are. So I guess that is to say that if I don't remember them, they're probably not going to get ranked very high, even if they did something particularly interesting that might, make them seem like a better villain. If I can't remember what they did, granted, it's been a couple weeks since I watched this show, and I've watched a lot since then. But if I can't remember what they did, then that doesn't speak too highly. But, this is all my opinion. You're free to disagree. You're free to make your own. So I think that's going to be enough for the disclaimers. Like I said, I'm doing the best that I can do with filming this. I tried to give you some interesting things to look at in front of the TV here since I'm just filming my TV. But let's go ahead and get into it. These are alphabetical. So first we have Anthony Romulus, who was a werewolf character. I don't remember much about him, but it seems like he was more of a victim than a villain. Also, one of the few things I do remember is that the first time we see him, the person he encounters thinks he's wearing a mask. So that can't be very cool. So, I mean, I've never done a tier video before. I've only watched a couple of them. So, I'm kind of guessing as to how this works. I've never understood what the S stands for and why there's a tier better than A, right? I know people call it God tier. But, I don't understand why A isn't the best. But I kind of, it's not that hard to understand that it gets worse the worse you go down. So I'm going to put Mr. Werewolf here. How do I do this? In D tier. Because he's not super great. He's not super memorable. He's not really a villain. But he's more interesting than some of the people that are going to go down in these lower tiers. And, maybe I'll change my mind as I go. Because I haven't planned this all out yet. Next up, we've got Arnold Stromwell, one of the many mob bosses shown throughout the show. And it's like, on the one hand, mob bosses are better villains because they cause a lot of problems. They can be a real thorn. Get it? Where's he at? A thorn in Batman's side. But often, their dealings seem legitimate. So that's kind of an added thing. But on the other hand, it's like they don't really do much and their men do most of the work. But Stromwell, I feel like, is one of the main ones in the show. He's a recurring character. A lot revolves around him. So I'm actually going to put him up in C tier. Again, maybe I'll change my mind. We'll see. Baby Doll's an interesting one. Because Baby Doll, first of all, she kidnaps people and I want to say there's threats of explosions involved. Is that right? So, you wouldn't think she'd be that crazy of a villain or that intense of a villain, but she certainly is. But also, her story's pretty tragic and sad. And those moments where her real voice comes through and she stops putting on the Baby Doll persona, I feel really bad for the character. But then, she's insane. So I really wish they would have done more with this villain. I know they do more in the new Batman Adventures, but I wish she kind of could have broken into outside media a bit more, similar to how Harley Quinn did, because I'm pretty sure this is the original character for the show. I really like this villain, though. I'm going to put her in B tier, B for Baby Doll. Now we get to Bane, and I feel like it's important to specify that This is just my ranking of them in this show, not overall. And Bane, I feel like, doesn't do a whole lot in this show. He's only in one episode. I honestly can't remember anything about it. I don't remember what he did. I don't remember how it ended. I don't remember anything. So Bane is going to go in the D tier. Then we get Boss Biggest, who runs the chain gang when Bruce Wayne is in disguise and gets amnesia. This guy just sucks. He does no work himself. He's preying on the homeless and the weak. He's just going to go into F tier for sure. Then we get Catwoman. Now, Catwoman obviously is more interesting than your average villain. She's got kind of a flirty thing going on. I didn't really love the Selena Kyle angle of her. And, like, to be fair, I don't know much about the Selena Kyle persona from the comics. I've read quite a few comics with Catwoman in them, but not a whole lot that focuses on Selena. So, like, I don't know what that's supposed to be. But she, like, lives in this really nice apartment. So it's like, what are you stealing for then? And, like, she goes through this thing with the courts where it's like, okay, we're going to put you on probation, but you can never be Catwoman again. And then, like, she just does. And it's like, just put on a different costume. And then you're not like, so, again, outside of the show, I think she's higher. But inside the show, I don't think there's anything super great with her. I think they could have done more to make her of a more important recurring love interest. And I know we're not talking about the new Batman Adventures, but in that show, she's like preying on Nightwing, which is weird. So, not in love with this version of the character. We're going to put her in B tier also. Then we get to Clayface. Now, Clayface, I don't know why. Couldn't tell you why. Clayface, I really enjoy. Like, I don't want to say he's one of my favorite villains, because I don't know that much about him, but he seems very interesting to me. I really like what they do with him on Harley Quinn. And I would say he's on my short list of villains that I wish we could get in a live action movie. Even if it's not the, what's this guy's name? Matt Nagan or something? I can't remember his name. But even if it's not this version, even if it's just the Basil Carlo actor version, I like that idea. And, like, it's one of those things that Marvel hasn't done Chameleon in a movie yet. So, like, DC could get on it first. He is a little bit Sandman-y in this show, not only with his powers, but with, you know, him doing stuff for his daughter. But he's got this unhinged side of him also. So I like him a lot. I'm actually going to put him in A tier. I like Clayface stories. Then we get to Clock King. Not particularly long-lasting. More an antagonist to Mayor Hill, I think, than Batman himself. But I kind of dig him, but he's not doing that much. I'm going to put him in C for Clock. Condiment King. Man, I mean, he's in this episode with like 3 joke villains, and for whatever reason, he's the one that's broken through. So we'll get to Rat Pack later, or I'm sorry, Pack Rat, and the Mighty Mom. But, like, for whatever reason, the Condiment King just stands out. He's clearly not a good villain, but there's just something about him that makes me chuckle. So I'm gonna keep him in D tier. Probably should be lower, but that's where I'm going. Count Vertigo. I can't remember anything that happens with this guy. I want to say this is the first episode that Talia al Ghul appears in, so I think she had the more important elements of that episode. I know there was some Vertigo going on, but Batman gets around it by just closing his eyes. So, like, that's not that hard to deal with. So we're going to put him in E tier. Then we got Dr. Dorian, who is the doctor that made Garth here, as well as Tigress. He kidnaps Selena Kyle, tries to turn her into Cat. This dude sucks. We're going to put him in F tier. I mean, he's smart. He's not an idiot like Boss Biggs, but he's just got no awareness. So yeah. Then we get Garth, the ape, and like, I forget why Dr. Dorian considers him less of a success than Tigress. This dude seems pretty chill. He's got the flat cap on. So again, he's only in one episode. He doesn't do a whole lot, but I kind of like him. So I'm going to put him higher than Dr. Dorian. We'll put him in E tier. This guy, I wrote down their names because I knew some of them I would forget. Gil Mason. This guy is like, I think, trying to take Commissioner Gordon's job, I think. Again, can't remember anything about him. I literally had to look up his name. Is the only reason I remember he had a connection to Commissioner Gordon. But I don't remember how he's doing it. I don't remember how it ends. F tier for him because he's forgettable. F for forgettable. Then we get Hardak, the computer system created by the robotics dude. That's a friend of Bruce Wayne's. Pops up in a couple episodes. Overall, not particularly. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but like a long lasting. I don't know. Maybe it'll come to me, but not a whole lot of a legacy left behind by Hardak. So we're gonna put him in E tier. Then we get to Harley Quinn, and like, hear me out. Harley Quinn, I think, has gone on to do bigger and better things than she ever did in this show. I really like the Harley Quinn animated series. I like Margot Robbie's portrayal in the DCEU. I like her in the Arkham games. So like, I don't take this as me saying I don't like Harley. In this show though, she doesn't do a whole lot. And like rewatching the show in a modern perspective, when it seems like society is kind of like, you know, hey, this relationship with the Joker is not something that people should look up to. This is a problem. And now she's doing stuff with Ivy, and like, there are the very beginnings of that kind of stuff in this show. But I just don't think it goes enough. And she doesn't ever really do a whole lot on her own. She's either with the Joker or with Ivy, and or Livewire. I guess that's in the new Batman Adventures because Livewire's not on this list. So I think the character is better outside of this show, but within the show, I'm going to put her at B tier. Then we get to Hugo Strange. Again, I think he's only in one episode. Can't remember anything about what he does. So he's pretty forgettable. So I'm going to put him... Should I put him in E or F? I feel like he did something important, so he should go higher than F. I just can't remember what it is. So we'll leave him in E for now. Then we get to Ivy's children, and I was like, should I even include this? Because it's just an extension of Poison Ivy. But it is kind of its own entity. It's its own problem that Batman had to deal with. So, you know, on the pro side, super strong, capable of a lot of destruction. On the negative side, doesn't last very long. And it ended up getting beaten with Weed Killer or something, right? So we'll go D-list villain there. I'm feeling bad about putting Bane that low, but like, I just can't remember what he does. Then we get to the Joker, and like, I feel like I don't even need to explain why, but Joker's going straight to S tier. He's the most recurring villain. We're including Mask of the Phantasm here. And hey, if you don't like that I'm including that and not the other DCAU movies, we'll just say that this is the only movie that was produced and released within the original run of this show and not afterwards. Not that it's the only one set in this time frame, but it's the only one that actually was released during the run of the show. So Joker, you know, his ties to, what's her name? Veronica, and all that, and just everything about him. Again, I don't feel like I need to explain it. So he goes up there. This dude's name is Josiah Wormwood, and I didn't look it up, but I think from memory, he like sets traps. So he gets hired by somebody to set a trap for Batman. I can't remember who he gets hired by, but I know that it doesn't work out for him. But we're gonna put him at E tier. I like in my brain I want to say it's Riddler, but I'm like, no, Riddler would have set his own trap. It's probably one of the mob bosses, or maybe even like one of the politicians. I don't think the politicians are as crooked in this as some of the other stuff though. So moving on to Killer Croc. Killer Croc in this show is kind of just a big dumb idiot. I think he's better in the new Batman Adventures. But in this show, he doesn't do a whole lot. And he's kind of the joke villain that people poke fun at, kind of like how Bane is in the new Harley Quinn show. And his most memorable moment is when Batman is impersonating him at the card game. So we're gonna throw him down in E tier. He doesn't do a whole lot. Kyoda is this figure from Bruce Wayne's past. So he's not really a Batman villain. He's a Bruce Wayne villain. And he's kind of like the dark reflection of Bruce Wayne, where Bruce Wayne stayed on the path of honor and justice. Kyoda chose the path of underminedness. I don't know. But I think he's an interesting villain. He pops up a couple times, and while he doesn't do a whole lot to Gotham that has a lasting effect, he does put a lot of reflection on Bruce Wayne, which leads to some nice Bruce Wayne moments with the sensei, when he's like, I'm not a samurai, I'm more of a ninja, and the sensei's like, no, you have honor, you're not like Kyoda. So he leads to some good moments. I'm gonna put him in D tier. I want to say doesn't he fall into lava or something because he refuses to accept Bruce's help? So that's pretty dumb. But I don't think he's definitively dead. So we'll throw him there. Then we get Lockup. Lockup sucks. He's a crooked cop. We have those in real life. That's not exciting. We're gonna throw him in F tier. Then we have the Mad Bomber, aka Ted Dimer, using props from the old Grey Ghost show. This is the episode that Adam West guest starred in. This guy's also pretty dumb. He's literally just reusing plots of an old TV show, and he's just a whiny little nobody. So he's gonna go in F tier. Mad Hatter. Now this is one that there's gonna be a couple of these. I don't love the version of Mad Hatter in this show. As much as I love the show and as good as it gets some characters, I never really loved the version of Mad Hatter in this show. Maybe it's just because he's creepy on Alice. I know the other versions of Mad Hatter are creepy on their own versions of Alice, but I feel like usually it's a sister or something. The version in Batwoman I feel like is more compelling. This one just seems like a cartoon character. He is a cartoon character, but he never seems that menacing to me, even though he should because he's got power over people. But I never really liked this version, so we're gonna keep him in D tier. Then we get Man-Bat. I don't know, technically his wife was also, although maybe that was New Batman Adventures, but either way, I'm just taking the Kurt Langstrom version, and this I think is a good villain because there's a I can't think of the right word. He's not a bad guy. He's a villain, but he's an antagonist, but he's not a bad guy. He's just a scientist that got in over his head. And so Bruce, he wants to help him, not hurt him. And I always think that's more interesting. So, yeah, we'll put him with B tier. B tier is kind of a lot of that, I guess. Because even Harley Quinn, there's times where she helps out Batman. And she smacks him on the lips a couple times. So not all bad people. That's not what I intended to do. That just seems what's happening. Then we get Mighty Mom, very forgettable, very much a joke villain. Not much exciting there. Then we get this guy named the Mirror Man. He's not called that in the show. He's just Eddie Ventrix, but that's what he's called in the comics. This one, it's almost similar to Clayface, where I might be confusing these two. Clayface doesn't have a daughter in the show, does he? He's got his fiance, I think, but I don't think he has a daughter. So Ventrix is the one with the daughter. This is the one that's kind of Sandman-y. Except for he lies to his daughter and he tries to trick her, and that's not great. That's pretty low. And he just stole this stuff. So he didn't create it. He didn't make it. It's not his genius that's showing through. So he's not great. We're going to throw him in D tier. Mr. Freeze, I feel like, is going up to the S tier along with Joker. He's not in that many episodes, but I think not only did he get a major redesign for this show and a major reinterpretation that so many people loved and responded to, and it's carried on outside of this show, but this is kind of like one of the top examples of how you do I cannot think of words tonight. Not a compelling villain, a compassionate villain, a villain that, like, even if you don't agree with him, you understand. And the whole concept of him doing everything for his wife, really good. And, like, I'm not including Sub-Zero here, so I'm not including the other dude that he works with in that movie, whose name I can't remember. But, like, that movie, I think, shows that, how he works with... I can't remember the little Inuit kid's name either. But how he cares for him, and when the oil rig is going up and he tells Batman to save everybody else first. I know technically I'm not including that movie in this, but like that started in this show and it carried on past the show. So S tier for Mr. Freeze. Then we get Nivens, Bullock's landlord. I'm tempted to go straight to F tier because he is going against Bullock and he fails, but we'll leave him there. Nostromos, another one. I'm going straight to F tier. Extremely forgettable. Just trying to con old people. Like, we have that in real life. That's nothing exciting. Pack Rat. I don't know why, but I like this guy a little bit more than Mighty Mom. Even though he's a dumb joke villain, I'm going to throw him up in E tier because he's just so confident about it. Like, not that... Condiment King, obviously he's higher. Not that Mighty Mom wasn't confident, but, like, this guy just seems to be enjoying it more, which makes me enjoy him more. So we're going to throw him up there. Now, Penguin's the other one. Like Bane, like Mad Hatter, that I just don't think they nailed Penguin on this show. There's no episodes where it's, like, just a really good Penguin story. It's always, like, something else going on. Like, I've got Batman in my basement, where it's, these kids and Batman's knocked out. And that's my chair creaking, by the way, just to be clear about that. It's not actually a chair. I'm sitting on a futon, but I like some versions of the Penguin. I like the version on the Adam West show. I like the Danny DeVito version. I just don't like this version of the Penguin. I don't think he does that much. I don't think he's that memorable. Is that the word I've been looking for? Memorable? So I'm going to throw him... I guess we'll go in D tier. Because he's still one of the classic villains. I can't put him below the Werewolf and the Condiment King. But he just doesn't do much. Then we get to Phantasm. Now, Phantasm, they never say her name, so I don't know how you pronounce it. That's how I'm going to say it. Not in the show, technically, just in the movie, but we're counting it here. It's got all the benefits of Selena Kyle being a love interest that causes problems for Bruce Wayne. But, like, her powers are just so cool, and how does she disappear, and nobody knows, and then, like, add into that, she also causes problems for Batman, because people mistake her for Batman, and then they're like, oh, Batman's killing people now. So even though her legacy is short-lived, I really like her as a villain, and while I would like to have seen more of her, it's kind of like the leave them wanting more kind of mentality, so I'm going to throw her in A tier. It's just kind of one of these things where, again, she's not a bad guy, but she is a villain, and she's killing these people, and Batman's like, that's not okay, you can't kill these people, but he doesn't really want to stop her either. Poison Ivy. I think Poison Ivy, I don't think she's fantastic in this show. It's interesting how they start her out with Harvey Dent, and then kind of goes down from there. I do think she was a little bit too much, like, plants are better than people. I get that's kind of her deal, but I think they might have gone a little bit too over the top with it. So we're going to put Poison Ivy in C tier. Do I want to do that? We need to fill out C tier a little bit more. I would be more interested to watch any of these characters more over Poison Ivy. So I think that works for me. Then we get Professor Milo. Now, I'm pretty sure he was in more than one episode, but the only thing I remember is that he's the one that actually made the Wolfman dude, I think. Or maybe it was an accident, but he was like manipulating him. So I can't really remember anything that he did or wanted. So he's going to go in F tier. Ra's al Ghul. Man, or I guess they call him Ra's al Ghul in this show, don't they? No, it's Ra's in this. It's Ra's in the Nolan movies. Again, great villain because he's got that personal conflict with Bruce Wayne. I love that he calls him detective. I don't know why. I just think that's super neat. And it's like one of those things where they don't hate each other. They're just in each other's ways. I'm going to put Ra's al Ghul up in A tier. Now we get Red Claw. Red Claw's in multiple episodes, and I swear, like, she's just like a government agent, kind of, right? She's always got this weird team. Like, I don't understand what makes her so special, but she is more effective than some of these other people, so we'll throw her in E tier. Now, Riddler, this one made me sad, because, like, Riddler was my favorite villain in the Adam West show. I know conceptually he's like a worse Joker, but like, I don't know. I feel like his energy was great in that show. So I was hoping we get some good Riddler stories in this show, but he doesn't show up until pretty late in the show's run. And like, his main big thing that I remember is a video game. And so, I don't know, maybe it just seems outdated now, but I feel like they did the Riddler dirty, and he could have been way more interesting, but he wasn't. So I'm going to throw him in C tier. Then we get this dude, whose name is Roland Daggett. This is the pharmaceutical guy that... What is it Negan? Matt Negan? I can't remember Clayface's name, but Daggett's responsible for that. He shows up in a couple other episodes, but like, he's just kind of boring. He's just a business dude. I'm going to go E tier just because, at least through his connection with Clayface, he had some lasting impact. I guess Milo had that too with the werewolf, but that was only one episode. And Clayface kept coming back. Then we get Rupert Thorne. I feel like Thorne and Stromwell are on pretty equal footing in this show. Both have multiple appearances. Both are annoying because they come off as legitimate businessmen. Thorne also, like, he's a big guy, but he can move it. There's a few episodes where he's pretty quick out there. And, like, there's at least one where, like, Batman is carrying him while he's swinging on his cable. And it's just like, all right, that's a big boy for Batman to be carrying around, but it's not slowing him down. Then we get Scarecrow. Scarecrow went through a redesign on the show before going on to a further redesign for the new Batman Adventures. So I chose the middle iteration here. I can't really remember much of what the Scarecrow does in this show, because when I'm trying to think of like a big plan that he had, I'm thinking of the 70s show, which is Poison the Water Supply, which is what they also did in Batman Begins. So like, what did he do in this show? I don't even really remember. So he's pretty forgettable. So I'm going to throw him in D tier. And he's in like multiple episodes. I just don't ever remember what he's going for. Then we get Scarface. I know some people consider the ventriloquist a separate villain, but to me, the ventriloquist is not a villain. Scarface is the villain. Scarface is another one, kind of like Baby Doll, where it's like, it shouldn't work. It should be dumb and stupid and silly, but somehow they made it work. And like, just the attention to detail you have to have in order for it to come across so well. And when he's talking and when he's not talking, and when he can actually do things and when he can't do things, and what happens when he's separated and how does that work. And then there's another episode, I can't remember if it's in this show or the new Batman Adventures, but there's an impersonator, and like, how does that all work? And I love it all so much. I'm going, do I want to go A tier? I might want to go A tier. You know what? I'm going to give him A tier just because all of the henchmen in that crew understand that he's the boss. And like, except for maybe like the new guy, I can't even remember, but like all the regulars, they get it. He's the boss. He's the one you talk to. He's the one that makes the decisions. And the ventriloquist, he's the dummy. So just for that, for getting that through to those henchmen, we're We're giving him A tier. Then we get the Sewer King preying on homeless kids. Nope, you suck. You're an F tier for sure. Talia al Ghul, I feel like doesn't do a whole lot in this show, except for getting Bruce Wayne's way and cause problems between him and her father. She's like very much like, oh my love, won't you come away with me, my love? Which like, I don't know. I haven't read a lot of Talia in the comics, but I feel like she should be a bit stronger of a character. Excuse me. So I feel like she's kind of a watered down version. So where do I want to put her? We'll put her in D tier. Then we get the terrible trio, Fox, Vulture, and Shark. Just rich kids who think they can get away with crimes because they think they're smart. We've got that in real life. That's not interesting. F tier for them. Then we get, what is this person's name? Thoth Khepera? I have no idea how you pronounce it. Some kind of Egyptian goddess thing that's causing issues with Ra's al Ghul. I can't even remember. F tier for her. 4 left. Tony Zuko. I mean, Tony Zuko. Only in 1 episode, and it's a flashback. He doesn't do a whole lot, but his legacy is Robin. So I guess I'll put him at E tier. Because he's not pointless like these guys, but he doesn't actually do a whole lot. He's kind of dumb. Then we get Two-Face. Now, I don't know that this is my favorite version of Two-Face. I think I like the Aaron Eckhart version better. But like the whole big bad horror aspect of it is certainly a choice. And while I'm not sure I'd love the choice, I think they execute it fairly well. I don't know if that's original to the show or not. I'm assuming it is because I haven't ever seen it outside of it. But I don't know that for sure. But what I really like about it, I like that they started with Harvey and then he became Two-Face later. I like how even throughout the show's run, even after he's been Two-Face, he still remembers his friendship with Bruce Wayne. Even if he doesn't always, honor it. And while I don't love what they did with him and Ivy, it kind of, I don't know. He brings it up a couple times, I'm pretty sure, later on in the show that they used to be a thing. And so, that I don't know, it makes him a little bit more interesting. So, not like my favorite, but I think a solid version of the character. We'll put him at B tier. 2 dudes left. Tigress, created by Dr. Dorian. Intelligent and emotionally aware enough to understand that Selena doesn't want to stay there, and he helps her out, turns against his owner. That's nicer than any cat I've ever met in real life. I'm going to put him in D tier. Just because I can't, even though I don't like Mad Hatter and Penguin, I can't imagine putting him up. Plus, he doesn't really, he doesn't really have a lasting impact. And then Zeus. Dude seriously thinks he's Zeus. F tier for him. Sorry, buddy. So, let's see what I've got here. Oh, and I know based on the few that I've watched that some people, go left to right also in terms of within the tier. How important. I'm not going to do that because that's complicated in this format because this isn't a real tier list. So if you disagree with the order within each tier, I'm not giving an order within each tier. So S tier, Joker and Mr. Freeze. I feel like if they had done a bit more with Catwoman, if they had given Harley a bit more independence, or if they had made Ra's a larger part, some of those guys could have gone up here, but I think those are the 2 best villains of the show. By a pretty decent margin. A tier, Mask of the Phantasm is one of my favorite Batman movies. If not my favorite, I will be reevaluating that after I finish watching all of them. By the way, I guess I didn't preface this at the beginning. This is a kind of a kind of a partner video to my Patreon project on my Patreon, patreon.com/SamTomMiller. I'm doing something I call the Batman Project. I'm watching every Batman movie and TV show, and I'm reading a bunch of comics, and I'm doing a bunch of other stuff, including talking about a bunch of different merch, which you can see down here, and doing different Lego builds, which you might not be able to see that. Doing like coloring pages, doing Batman puzzles. So I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff over there if you want to check that out. So every month I'm trying to do kind of a companion video on YouTube. That's what this is. So my video talking about Batman the Animated Series, as well as my video talking about the new Batman Adventures, and I'm going through chronologically. So as I'm recording this, I'm in the 90s. I'm in the process of watching Batman Beyond, but all of my thoughts on every Batman movie and TV show will be in their own videos over there if you want to check that out. Back to what I was saying. So A tier, I mean, I like these guys all a lot. I feel like obviously she wasn't in the show, but like these other three, their episodes are always interesting. And I want, these are all people that I wish we had more of. I wish we had Clayface in live action. I wish we had Scarface in just even more Batman media. Ra's al Ghul we've gotten a fair amount of, but I feel like in the Nolan movies he wasn't quite right. And Phantasm, I wish we could have gotten more of her, but like I'm also kind of glad that they didn't overdo her. So these are the ones I all wish we got more of, I guess is how I would summarize those. I don't know that I need to summarize them, but if I'm going to do that, that's where those come in. And then the B characters are all characters that, again, are interesting. I just feel like didn't quite get their potential. Baby Doll, I think they brought her back in the new Batman Adventures when they teamed her up with Killer Croc. But like she didn't really grow. They didn't really do much with her. So I feel like they could have explored this character a lot more, and it could have been really interesting. I've already talked about Catwoman and Harley. Man-Bat, I think there's just one episode with him and then one with his wife, but that might be in the new Batman Adventures. But like that could be something that they could have gone more into with like what happens when Batman's friend or Bruce Wayne's friend, isn't in control of themselves. And then Two-Face, I don't hate the Big Bad Harv stuff. But I was more interested in like his conflict with his friendship with Bruce. And I just watched the show a couple weeks ago. I feel like they do talk about, they go through in the show him getting surgery and looking normal again. I might be confusing that with comics though, because I have read quite a few comics with Harvey Dent in them. So maybe I'm adding that in myself. But these are all characters that I like the characters. But like the ones that have been in outside media, I think they've been done better in other outside media. And the ones that haven't, I wish they would, but not quite as much as these guys. C-tier characters, they're just characters that kind of had to be there. And I think they do their job, but could have been done better. We got a couple mobsters, nowadays, I guess in Gotham, it was Maroni and Falcone. Here it's Stromwell and Thorne. Clock King doesn't do a whole lot. I don't know. I like his precision. Riddler, like I said, I wish they would have done more with. Poison Ivy, I didn't love. But they're all there. They all serve their purpose. It's fine. D-list characters, a lot of these are one-offs. The Werewolf's a one-off. Bane is a one-off. Condiment King, Ivy's Monster, the Mirror Man, whatever. Tigress, those are all one-offs. And then the rest of them, I think, just failed to live up, not even to like my high expectations, but like their own potential. So Mad Hatter, Penguin, Scarecrow, Talia, I think those characters deserve better. And Kyodai Kid, really, he's like a lower tier character that just moved up higher because I found him interesting. E-tier characters, pretty forgettable and like kind of just there, not even for their own purposes. Clock King or Count Vertigo, is really just there so that Batman can meet Talia al Ghul. And Garth is just there to be a bad tigress. Hardak doesn't really have a point. You just have to do, I guess, a robot disguising itself as human storyline. But it's not even really about Hardak. Hugo Strange can't even remember what he did. This dude can't even remember what his deal was. Killer Croc, like, doesn't ever really do his own. Like I said, he's kind of the joke of everybody else. And then these dudes, you know, who are they? What do they do? And then F tier are all the losers, the people who don't do anything interesting, have like no awareness, or are just too similar to real life to be good Batman villains. Which, like, you know, not to say that a good villain can't be an analog to real life. Hunchback of Notre Dame is my favorite Disney movie, and Claude Frollo is a great and terrifying villain because he's so realistic. I don't really have a way to justify how that's better than these. Maybe it's just the execution and the characterization, but like, oh, a crooked cop, oh, spoiled rich white boys, you know, oh, a jerk who used to be picked on, and so now he's enjoying controlling others. Oh, a dude who, you know, thinks he's the best thing ever. Oh, a dude who hates his neighbor. Like, I don't know. Those just aren't interesting to me. I guess the difference between these guys and like Frollo is like Frollo's interesting because he has power to abuse. And like none of these guys really do in the same sense. Like Lockup, like he does kind of, but not when he's Lockup. It's when he's the guard. And then after he stops being the guard, then he becomes Lockup. Nostromus, you know, he's just scamming old people. That's not having power. That's just preying on the, you know, on the easily targeted. So I think I'm going to stop this there. Obviously, feel free to let me know if you agree or disagree. Feel free to, you know, tell me your whole ranking if you want to. I'll read it if you throw it in the comments. And if what I was telling you about my Patreon project sounds interesting to you, I'm also playing Arkham Knight over there. I know that's an old game, but I explained in my first video for it why I'm replaying it at this point in time. So if you want to check any of that out, feel free. I did new videos every day in January and February, and I'm going to continue to post new videos every day in March. It's going to slow down a little bit in April and beyond, but that's a lot of videos to start out with. So if you want to check it out, and then if you don't like it, you can bail out. You don't have to stick around. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.